Hi guys, and welcome to Archie Luxury Corporate. Today on the Archie Luxury Corporate channel, guys, I want to talk about how to sell your Rolex for absolutely top dollar. And before we start, guys, we've got to do a wristwatch check. So today, guys, I am wearing my Zenith El Primero Chronomaster, and it's the open. See, you can actually see through there. See, you can see through the display there. And interestingly enough, fun fact with the El Primero Chronomaster, the open version does not have a date. Does not have the date feature. So there you go. A little bit of an interesting look at that watch there. Okay guys, so today I want to talk about how to sell your Rolex for top dollar. Because let's face it, so many people out there, you make emotional purchases. You make an emotional purchase and watches really say what sort of person you are. It's your temperament, often when we make a decision to buy a wristwatch, we'll buy it very, very emotional, and sometimes we can overcommit. I'm very much an incentive-driven person, so I try my best, and I bought a few watches. Things are going good. I pump money into wristwatches, and then when things get fuck this, I'm kind of thinking, shit, I gotta sell something. Bit overcommitted, money's tight. You got to do something. And the big problem is when it comes to selling your Rolex, I got to tell you, the big problem is margins are tight. We've had it confirmed. There was another YouTube watch guy. He said margins are 8 to 9%, which that guy's overseas in America. I'm in Australia, and I've got a few contacts who have independent. They're independent. They basically sell used pieces, pre-owned, and yes, margins are very tight on Rolex. And when margins are single digit, like under 10%, you've really got to make sure you get top whack. See, the problem is, you go to a stealer, and I've always said this, if you are selling watches to a dealer, you are selling too cheap. And they got to add on a margin. So a dealer, he'll try and make 15% out of a Rolex. He may not always get that, but that's what he'll try and do. So they will literally, depending on what Rolex you've got, they will try and skin you alive. The thing is, with dealers, they are all super, super critical. And I mean, you turn up at a dealer with a, like say this here is a 2004 F serial number Rolex Explorer 2, nice condition. It comes with box. No papers, just box and watch only. And the dealer's going to say to me, what's he going to say to you? He's going to say, oh, the polars aren't as wanted as the black. Whatever you've got is always the one that's not wanted. Look, I'm very sorry, Archie. The white is not the most wanted. The black is worth a fair bit more. Oh, no papers. Oh, that really hurts. Whatever it is, whatever fault the watch has, like it may not have papers, it may have link short, whatever that is, that'll be the eternal problem that is going to stop you getting top dollar. They will continually, whatever you have is never wanted. And this is the shtick that dealers throw at you. And I'm actually friends with somebody who's very good friends with a dealer, and I can smell their dealer tricks a mile away, and they go in very mean. They go mean. They are very, very mean. And I gotta be honest with you, if a dealer, whatever price a dealer will give you, they will try and fuck you over. This is the honest truth. I know this is corporate channel, but hey, corporates swear like troopers too. And I gotta be completely frank with you, it makes it very, very difficult to extract full dollar out of it. It makes it very, very difficult. So the other problem is too with many of these Rolexes is that they will skin you. They kind of, it's like when you go to Italy. If you go to Italy and you buy clothes, there's no prices on the clothes. They make it up. They gauge you. And that's a very, very interesting thing. You've really got to go into negotiations poker face. If you go into a pre-owned dealer and say, hey, I'd like to sell this watch, what would you give me? Now, if you go in there in a suit, or if you go in there as a, say, a tradie, or it's not so much the clothes that make the difference, but if they think you are naive, they'll try and spin a story. And this is what you've got to be very careful of. You go to a dealer, and whatever you have, it's always flawed. It's not the wanted one. Any type of blemish or imperfection is suddenly catastrophic and very expensive to fix. They are brutal, absolutely brutal. And with Rolex, they've got to be so careful because they are working on often slim margins. But if they can take advantage of you, believe you me, those margins are bigger. So you've got to really do your homework before you go to a dealer and say, hey, how much would you give me for this? What would you give me for that? Very, very important. You research the market, find out what they're selling for, and the best way to gauge it is you go in there and say, hey, I'm thinking. You should never say, hey, I need to sell this watch, I'm desperate, things have turned bad. You go in there and say, hey, I'm considering selling this watch. Always, you've got to, if you're going into a dealer, I'm considering, okay? I'm considering, if your offer is really good, I'm considering selling it. The best thing to use is, irrespective of what the truth is, you're always best to say, hey, I'm thinking of selling it to buy a Patek or a gold model that's come up. Don't get too involved. They say, oh, what model are you looking at? Say, hey, look, I want to sell this. Let's just talk about this. You got to steer the conversation. So the best thing is, if you are dealing with dealer, you go in there, you got to have your scruples. If they suspect you're desperate, they can smell blood. Watch dealers are like sharks. They can smell fear and blood a mile away. And you got to be so damn careful. You got to be so damn careful because they will eat you. They will eat you alive. So the best advice, how do you sell your Rolex for top dollar? Well, in all honesty, the best way to sell your Rolex is not to a dealer. That's right. The best way to get top dollar for your Rolex is to sell it yourself. See, if you were paying a dealer, he acts as a middleman. He buys low, sells high. That's what he does. Whereas you've got to try and find that retail punter. If you can find that retail punter, you may not sell it for as much as a dealer would sell it, but you will get much more money for yourself because the dealer needs to add a commission. He's got to pay sales taxes, business, all expenses. He's got to factor this in. So what's happened in recent times is the forums, online. And I can tell you, my honest advice, if you are looking at selling online, my advice is do not sell on eBay. Do not sell on eBay. eBay itself there is fraught with danger. It's really, really, really fraught with danger. eBay, they now make you accept PayPal. They also, the way eBay works is, they're not really interested in the seller. They're interested in the buyer. So if the buyer says, oh, it's not as described, it should have come, they just people make up any excuse. eBay generally will give them their money back and hovel to what the customer wants. So you're sending a very, very, very expensive watch to them. Well, guess what? They will side with the buyer time and time again. So my honest advice is I would not sell on eBay. eBay's fine for cheap things. Couple $100 things is fine. But I wouldn't be selling luxury Rolex wristwatches on Fleabay. That is for sure. And the danger is too, you have a situation where they can dispute the transaction. They can also dispute it with PayPal. They can dispute it often with PayPal. It's linked to a credit card. They can dispute it with the credit card company. They can dispute a transaction so many ways. You can really get screwed over. So as far as eBay goes, my advice is stay clear. Stay clear. eBay also does not let you say you're not allowed to not accept PayPal. You must accept, part of your terms and conditions with eBay, you have to accept PayPal, which means they could use a credit card, which means that they can have a chargeback. And if you look into the fine print on PayPal as far as chargebacks go, it's pretty scary stuff. They say it's a cost of doing business. Well, imagine selling a Rolex Submariner and being told that, yes, it was fraudulent use of a credit card, and that's the cost of doing business. Ooh, that would be so painful. So eBay itself, my honest advice is stay clear. eBay is very dangerous for the seller. If you are a rookie seller, the other problem is, how do you insure this thing? So say you're in Australia and you sold it to someone in America. It's a disaster because insurance is maximum 5,000 Australian dollars in Australia. Actually, it might be 6. It might be 6 now, but it's under 10. I can tell you that now. And the problem is jewelry can't be insured. So is a watch a piece of jewelry? Well, it's a gray area, and you don't want them saying, "Hey, this is invalid. We're not going to pay this. This is jewelry." You're kind of in trouble. The other disaster is if you're sending it to a Rolex, particularly Rolex. Rolex has got some really weird arrangements with US Customs, and it's to do with trademark infringements where only Rolex, if you're sending a Rolex from one country to America, you've got to get a Rolex clearance certificate. Have you ever heard of such bullshit? So with Patek Philippe, you never actually own the watch because you're looking after it for the next generation. But with Rolex, you don't actually own it. You just have permission to use the goods. So it's very, very nasty indeed. So eBay is a minefield, absolute minefield. How do you insure it? Well, you don't. And if you declare it correctly, it then becomes a target for theft. And I know about this because I had a Rolex stolen by the Chicago Mafia. The Chicago mob stole my 1016. So, yeah, that's just how it goes there. So, eBay, I would say stay away from. So, how do you sell the Rolex? How do you sell your Rolex to get top dollar? And that leaves us to the most popular way is the forums, particularly the Facebook forums. And this can be a fair way. You take a few pictures often you need to write your name and date and your username and the watch on a piece of paper to prove that that photo is your watch. And this is a very easy way to sell pieces. You don't have to pay pesky commissions. You can arrange to meet people, and you can conduct business. The problem is, on these forums, you always get so many likes. I mean, if I could have $1 for every like I got, I'd be a very, very rich man. So they give you likes. Well, I don't want likes. I want a buyer. I want a buyer. That's what I want. I don't want likes. I want a buyer. So you then have a situation, you've got to do your due diligence. There's a lot of scammers on the Facebook who just don't quite understand. There's many, many scams going on there. One of the most common Facebook scams is that they say, okay, I've put the money, give me your bank details, I've put the money in, and they give you a photo of a doctored bank transfer. This is a Photoshop bank transfer. And hey, hang on a minute. You've got to have your due diligence. You don't give possession of your goods until you've actually got cash readies in your account. There's also been a number of nasty thefts that have gone on, and this can happen on the forums, but it can also happen through Gumtree and Craigslist. Basically, you agree to meet someone. Often you meet someone in a shopping center, a mall, or a Starbucks. And guess what? Guess what? Snatch and grab, they run and they're gone. So you've got to be so damn careful there. Can you conduct business in another jewelry shop? Well, this is the problem. Often, you want to sell a Rolex. The dealer, they might say, oh, let's go to so-and-so, he can authenticate it. Well, the dealer's not interested in helping you sell your Rolex. He wants to sell his own shit. He's not there to help you. He's there to sell his own crap. So often that's a disaster, because these dealers, they don't care. They're not there they don't make money authenticating your stuff you're selling. So you've got to be very careful with that. The forums, you basically want to clarify. I always say your best thing is you've got a seller who you're negotiating with. Pick up the phone. Pick up the phone. The dog and bone. Pick up the phone. Have a conversation. Hello, it's Archie here. Thank you for your interest in my Hoya Monaco caliber 12 or caliber 11 or whatever you're selling. Talk to them. Do you get a good feeling? Do they sound like a pimply 15-year-old? Do they sound like a watch enthusiast? You might say, oh, have you got any other Rolexes? What are you into? And if they're a bit of a, just get a feel. Sometimes gut feel can do a lot for how you feel. You've got to buy the seller. That's always the case when you're conducting business. But you want to, preferably, you'd like to either meet the seller at their home, because if they're not going to cheat you, if there's a problem, you're going to turn back up at their doorstep, or somewhere near their work. So if you can discreetly find out what sort of job they have or where they work, that could be a great way to meet and greet. I always say, got to be careful. If these people seem dodgy, like they seem a bit young or they seem a bit pushy, not really knowing much about watches and that there, if in doubt, step back. If in doubt, step back. And there's been some really nasty things. One guy I know was selling a Ferrari. A Ferrari. Guy turns up. Yep, let me have a look at this. Turns up at his house. Pulls out a shooter. And says, right, give me the keys. And he's gone. And this is, you've got to be, this can happen with luxury watches as well. If someone pulls a gun, you want to try and build, what's your name? Where do you work? If you've just got a mobile phone number, what's a normal landline number? So, you've got to try and someone's going to rip you off. They won't give you these. It's going to be bit sneaky how you do this. But the best advice is, if it seems too good to be true, it often is. If someone says, oh yeah, I'll take it, blah, 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 sometimes it can be pretty damn sneaky. So my best advice to you is always err on the side of caution. If in doubt, step back, let the sale go. Don't be in a hurry where you must sell it. You must sell it. You must sell it. Just let it go through. If in doubt, just err on caution. The other thing is that when you're negotiating, I often find the best thing you can do to help you sell, to get top whack, is to present some beautiful professional photos. So many people take crappy photos. You've really got to learn the art of taking nice photos. Now, you can take photos with a smartphone. You don't have to use a DSLR. You can use a smartphone, but you've just got to learn about lighting. Turn the damn flash off. You want natural lighting. That's what the nice photos. And try and put it in a nice surround. Don't just messy, scruffy. You want to have it. You want to project a nice image of this product. It's like when they're selling these watches, the advertisements for them, they're all tastefully arty-farty type. This is how they package the deal. So I've got to tell you, in all honesty there, how do you get top dollar for your Rolex? Well, sell it yourself. Don't go to a dealer. Don't go to a stealer. You want to sell the watch yourself. As I said, if you are selling to a dealer, you are selling too cheap. The thing you want to do is you want to try and sell it on your terms. And this can be hard because sometimes you may, if you're stuck in Australia, it's a bit of an uncouth market for, say, a Patek or something like that. You'd really want to sell that thing overseas. So you've got to really work out what you're comfortable with, because sometimes last thing you want to do is ship a $20,000 watch in the post. I mean, that's just a disaster. Ideally, you want to try and meet the person face to face. You've already established their ID, their phone number. You kind of have a rapport with them. Then you can do the business. One thing that I can't stress strongly enough, and that is, hey, if you get a bad vibe, walk away. Just back out of the deal and you don't have to do every deal. Better to be cautious than be stupid. So that's a very, very important steps to follow there. You've got to also make sure, very important, make sure you know what to ask for. Often with these things, you've got to, I would do research and find out what cards and paperwork comes with it, because a lot of people don't know that it's not just the instruction booklet. There's little cards. Often these are lost and misplaced. So if you're buying secondhand, or if you're selling, you want to say, hey, I've got all this stuff. I've got all my cards. I've got this. I've got that. You want to make it as simple as possible. You will get more money if you make it easy for the customer not to guess, oh, I don't know if it has this. I don't know if it has that. Highlight the positives. Don't mention the negatives. That's not dishonest, but this is what you want to do. The other thing is, I've got to tell you, when it comes to selling these watches, do not get desperate. Do not get desperate. If you trying to get top whack, give it a while. Be patient. Don't just run to the dealer. You've got to be sensible. Give it a reason. It's like selling any big ticket item. You've got to give it a while to see how it goes. Selling Rolex, the margins are very, very slim. So you want to try and make sure you get as much as you can. If you just walk into a dealer and say, I've got this watch, I'm a bit desperate business, he'll peg you down low. If you say, look, I'm not sure if I want to sell it. It's a really good piece, got all the stuff. They're going to peg you higher. So you got to use every trick in the book to get top dollar. How to sell your Rolex for top dollar? You got to present it well. You got to make it easy for the seller to just know, well, this is a beautiful example. If it's got something wrong with it, why not get it fixed? Don't just leave it for them to fix it. You want top whack? Make it schmicko. If it's got a little scratch, get it polished out professionally. Get it done properly, get it done professionally, and you can charge a premium. To get top dollar for your Rolex, you gotta have the right mental mindset. If someone comes in lowball, you gotta be very brutal and stick to your guns. I take great pride when I'm selling something. I don't like to drop $1. You know, often people will come to you and say, what's the lowest you'll take? And I say, look, this isn't Kmart. I'm not here to sell the cheapest watch. Okay? What's the most you will pay? This really pisses me off when people say, what's the lowest you will accept? Well, what's the most you will pay? I'm here to get as much money as I can. I'm not here to sell something as cheap as possible. And I will price an item, and I'll see what the punters say. If they really haggle, I'll just say, look, I'm sorry, I don't want to sell to you. It's just too much hassle. Please go away. You can see some customers, they haggle, and it's just a disaster. You're best to say, that's the price. See you later. Just make good photos, good example. Don't get into a long negotiation. You're best to tell the customer, this is my price. Don't like it? Not a problem. See you later. And that's the way. What's the lowest you'll take? I'm not desperate. I'm quite... Yeah, that's what you've got to say, because these punters, they will nickel and dime you every way. So in my case, I like to try and get top whack. I'm not here to sell things cheap. I want to get the absolute top dollar. So I will say to them, look, I've priced it honestly to sell. I'm not here to muck around. I think my price is realistic. Why would I sell cheaper? And you just get into... You've got to overpower them and say, look, this is the price. I always like to put people in their place. They say, what's the lowest price? I say, maybe you should consider Uber. Get a second job. I say, maybe you should consider Tudor. You can't afford Rolex. Tudor is very good value. I always like to throw them in a very nasty way. Just throw them off center. And then they come back and say, look, this is the price. I'm not here to give money away. I bought Rolex to get maximum buck. That's what I'm here for, maximum dollar. So my advice is, don't let these people run you down. You stay firm. Put a realistic price. Do your homework. Present it well. And stay firm. And don't be afraid to throw nasties at them. If they come out, they're haggling, you say, look, thank you for your interest, but I really want more. Thank you. And that's always a good way to cut them off. You want serious punters. Serious punters won't nickel and dime. You've got to find the right person. And that's the art of sales. You get that retail customer, and God is your oyster. The world is your oyster. The world is your lobster. The world is your lobster. So go out there, just be hard ass. Don't be taken advantage of. How to get top dollar for your Rolex. Don't sell to dealers. Sell it yourself. Nice photos. Do your homework. Fix up any flaws. And if the punter is just nasty and cheap, just tell them to go away. You want the good punters. That's what you want, good punters. So how to sell your Rolex for top dollar. Do not sell to dealers. You got to get your own retail punter. That's what you need to do. Forget selling to dealers. They will They got to make a margin. If they can smell you're desperate, oh, they will skin you alive. They'll skin you alive. So that is my advice. That is my advice on how to get top dollar for your Rolex. I got to tell you, Rolex itself there is king. Other brands there, you wouldn't want to sell other brands to dealers. Dealers are terrible with Rolex, but other brands, they will eat you. Absolutely eat you. The market's very tough. You got to get that punter yourself. This is the internet age. Man, get with the program. Go and check some forums out, and you get top dollar. I'm Paul Pluter. This is the ArchieLuxury corporate program. Tell me what you guys think of that. Like, subscribe, and tell your corporate friends.